Okay, good evening, everyone. We're about to get started, so if you can silence your cell phones, I greatly appreciate it. Have a seat. Okay, good evening, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Monday, the 13th day of June in the year 2022. This is a City Council caucus meeting of the Jersey City Municipal Council. We had a scheduled 4 p.m. start. The clock on my cell phone is showing 4:06 p.m. May I have a roll call for the commencement of this caucus? Councilperson Ridley.
Here.
Councilperson Prinzeri.
Here.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Yeah.
Councilperson Soleil is on his way. Councilperson Solomon.
Here.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Present.
Councilperson DeGise is not here. Councilperson Rivera. And Council President Waterman.
Here.
Okay, we have 7 council members in attendance at 4:06 p.m. On behalf of Council President Waterman, in accordance with New Jersey Public Laws of 1975, Chapter 231, the Open Public Meetings Act, also known as the Sunshine Law, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the posting on the bulletin board of the first floor of City Hall, the annual notice, which is the schedule of meetings and caucuses of the Municipal Council for the calendar year 2022, and filed in the office of the City Clerk on Thursday, October 28th, 2021. In addition, at the time of its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Friday, June 10th, 2022 at 4 p.m. to the Municipal Council, Mayor, Business Administrator, Corporation Council, and the local newspapers, and posted on the city's website so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. Council President, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Good afternoon. Here we are. Greg, Director Caucus is first.
Good afternoon, President Waterman.
Good afternoon.
I'm here to speak today on,
Director Kears, could you just move the mic up to, yeah, there you go.
rightly, I'm here to speak on resolutions, I believe it's 15 from Public Works, and Director Moody had called me. She's out at the police graduation, so there's 3 for public safety. I'll be speaking on them also. First one is 1015, Resolution 22-423. This resolution award a contract to Jeans Landscaping to provide fertilizer, seeding, and aeration services to the following locations: Bayside Park, Benson Park, Berry Lane Field, Roberto Clemente Field, Cochran Stadium, Caven Point, Gateway Park Complex, Lincoln Park West, Persian Field, Martucci Field, and Roberto Clemente Complex. Total encumbrance on that is $6,000.
Any questions? Next one, Director.
Next is 1016-22-424, resolution will authorize the award of a contract to Hoffman Services for the purchase and delivery of a mobile column, which is a lift to be used by the automotive services, and that'll handle the large equipment such as garbage trucks, buses, enabling mechanics to diagnose each machine, which saves time and expedite repairs. The total amount of the contract is $103,159.76.
Any questions?
The next is 1017-22-425. This will award a contract to Cambria Automotive for the purchase and delivery of a Mack GR42F truck for forestry and a Mack GR64B trucks. That's our sanitation roll-offs. Total contract amount is $728,867, and that's as we're replacing all of the older vehicles in the fleet with newer vehicles.
Any questions?
Hey, Greg, typically these vehicles, life expectancy are around 20 years.
What we found, Councilman, is that when I took over the directorship down there, we did an analysis of all the equipment. We had equipment in service, some is in excess of 20-some-odd years. Bodies were deteriorating on them and things of that nature, and you couldn't mechanically keep them up anymore. So we met with the mayor's office, chief of staff, our BA, and we went through the entire fleet. We have a life expectancy on the big trucks, 12 to 15 years. Bear in mind, these vehicles are also used for snow removal, salting operations, and things like that. So, I mean, it's a constant turnover, but I'm telling you right now, after we get the rest of the order in, the fleet will be is probably in better shape than it's ever been.
So the ones that we're replacing, how long did we have those ones?
Excuse me?
The ones, this is a new one to replace the old one, correct?
Right. What we do is we purge the older vehicles, anything down there now. We have nothing in service on the roll-offs, I would say probably in excess of 12 years. But even that, you should get about 10 to 15 years, depending how you maintain it. These are a lot more energy efficient and things of that nature.
Just one other thing, Councilman. What we've been doing under Director Kearse's directive as well is taking a look at how much money we're putting into these vehicles at the end of their life. And if it doesn't make sense to build a new carburetor, whatever devices that, we take them out of the service and include them in the retention schedule, just because, as we've noticed with some of our police vehicles in the past, we were dumping more money than what the vehicle was worth into just repairing them. So bringing it into the new useful life retention schedule will eliminate those burden costs, and we'll have a fleet that we can rely on during the snow services.
And also, when the old ones are disposed of or sold at auction, is it common practice that we then use that money to put towards the new ones as well?
Yeah, so it's basically unspecified revenue. So with that, we'll take that money and issue it towards the debt service of these new vehicles.
Thank you. Go ahead, Greg.
Okay, 1018, Resolution 22-426, will authorize the award of a contract to Bayer Ford for the purchase and delivery of 6 GMC Canyon Crew Cab pickup trucks and 6 GMC Canyon 23 Canyon crew tips for the both to be used to upgrade the automotive fleet.
Next.
10-19, resolution will authorize the award of a contract to Foley Power Systems, a $10,000 encumbrance to repair the forklifts as needed throughout the Department of Public Works. 10-20, 22-428, resolution will authorize award of a contract to Northeast Auto Parts. That's for a $10,000 encumbrance for the purchase and delivery of fluids and lubricants for the city's automotive fleet. 10-21, 22-429, resolution will authorize a contract to Venero Lock and Safe Company for locksmith supplies and repair services citywide in the amount of $5,000 is the encumbrance. Resolution 1022, 42-430. This resolution will authorize a payment of a claim in the amount of $52,038 submitted by Hague Service Corporation for providing fire alarm testing, monitoring, and service for the period of January 2021 to December 2021. 1023, 22-431. This resolution will authorize the award of a contract to Avid Exchange for the New Jersey Energy Tracking Bill Management to assist the city in its goal of paying bills, saving energy, and improving business operations by performing an analysis on energy usage buildings to implement energy conservation measures under the New Jersey state contract. I have my Chief Administrative Services, John Lynch, here with us. You can see the total encumbrance is $900,000. What they do is that we would pay them. They review all of the bills. Their yearly contract is approximately $12,000. So the largest portion of that payment will be going to pay towards whatever outstanding electric bills are there.
Questions?
I have one more for Public Works, and that is a, 1038, that's renewal of a contract with USA Sales to provide custodial supplies for the Department of Public Works. And the next three will be for the Department of Public Safety. As I say, Director Moody is at the graduation this evening, so she asked me to cover for her. 10-8 is for forensic psychologists, and they'll perform testing for police and fire applicants. They'll provide the psychological examinations. 1029 is award of a contract to Verizon Business Network, and that'll provide network fax voice lines for the Department of Public Safety. And 1041 is Cellco partnership to provide services for modems connecting the mobile data terminals in the police and fire vehicles. That's it.
That's it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President, before we move on, I just want to record for the record, Councilperson DeGise arrived at 4:10 p.m. and Councilperson Saleh arrived at 4:13 p.m., so we now have all 9 members present at 4:13 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Matt?
Good afternoon, Council. I'm here for a number of items, first reading ordinances. Item 3.2 to 3.7, which is respectively 22-051 to 22-056. It's exciting to be here. This is for naming some roads in the Bayfront redevelopment plan area. There is right now just 6 that are being proposed in these ordinances. 4 of them are more location-based, and 2 of them are taken from the prospective street names list. And these streets are Society Hill Drive, Bayfront Avenue, Lehigh Avenue, Philbrook Boulevard, Conlin Boulevard, and Hackensack Avenue. There was a map that's put into these different ordinances, which shows you the approximate location of those roads. And this is really being initiated by a development coming in and a subdivision to start creating these roads in the first phase of development in Bayfront.
Any questions?
Matt, how do we come up with names for the roads? What does that process look like?
Sure. So I can't speak to the ones that were taken off of the prospective list. I believe that they worked with local historians and researchers to come up with that list. That's the one that was adopted in 2014. And then the other 4, I can go through those reasons. So one of them is named Bayfront Avenue after the redevelopment area. One is called Hackensack Avenue, as the city doesn't actually have a street named Hackensack, which is one of our major rivers that bound the city. Society Hill Drive is simply an extension of the road that goes through Society Hill. And Lehigh Avenue was a reference to the Morris Canal, the terminus of the Morris Canal, which brought coal back from the Lehigh Valley to New Jersey, Jersey City, and New York.
Oh, and when you say they, who's they? Earlier you said...
For the 2014 list?
Yes.
Well, I do have that ordinance. Preceded my tenure, I think, or just happened at the beginning of my tenure here at the city.
Historical district came up with that, too.
Let me see if there's something on the beginning of it. Let's see. I can pass this along, or we can make this available, but it said that the Law Department wishes to thank the following people for their assistance in compiling this list. Cynthia Harris, Director of the New Jersey Room of the Jersey City Free Public Library. John Gomez, Founder, past President of the current Board of Members of the Jersey City Landmarks Conservancy and author of the Legendary Locals of Jersey City. Dennis G. Duran, Local Historian and Treasurer of the Jersey City Landmarks Conservancy. Patrick Shalhoub, MA, MLS, Head of Periodicals and Government Documents Department. Carmela Carnutis, PhD, Professor of History at New Jersey City University. James Masante, BS, member of the Office of Information Technology Services Department at NJCU. Fred Smith, he's an MA/MS Head of Reference Department at the Congressman's Frank Guarini Library. So it was a group of those folks that put together the list.
If you could give me, send me a copy of the list.
Yeah, I'll make sure we get you a copy of that list. That's the 2014 ordinance, I believe. But
Okay.
we'll make it available.
Okay. Next, Matt, that was it? That's all of them, right? Any questions? Go ahead.
Matt,
We can talk about it offline, but I just want to recheck Lehigh and make sure that wasn't the road that we said we were going to try to convert to Robinson, to Jackie Robinson.
So I think that that's in maybe the next phase, but yeah,
Okay.
some of the other roads that were thought to come, that were briefly discussed at one of the meetings of the street naming committee was Richie Havens Boulevard, Jackie Robinson Boulevard, and those are they're just simply not in this first phase because they're thinking of being a more prominent location in Bayfront as it comes along.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Tanya?
Good afternoon. I'm here for two resolutions. One is 1046, and that's for 72 Montgomery. That is the parking lot of the Battery View Senior Building over on Montgomery and Green. The plan itself has expired, and so that's why we are authorizing a new study, basically. So we would have to go in and redesignate it, and then come back with a study designating it, and then move forward with the redevelopment plan. And then the other one is 1042, I believe. Yep. We've been working with the councilwoman on this for a little while now, and she feels pretty passionate about it. So we want to move forward with it and put more resources into it. So these are two redevelopment plans. One is the Carbon Culver 440, and the other one is the Water Street plan. The Water Street plan was before you guys not that long ago. And the idea would be, there's no, so you know, full transparency, I have no specific rezoning or upzoning or heights or anything like that in mind, but it's taking a look at the plan and figuring out how we can incorporate affordable housing, open space, and construction for a new school site, which is the same language that we talked about when we were talking about Journal Square. It's not too much different, but this gives us a chance to look, I think, creatively to talk about kind of, you know, capturing back the value of the land that we gave when we gave the upzoning. Those are the only two things that I have on the agenda tonight. Happy to answer any questions, though.
So, Director, I think there's a third item. I assume it's from you. It's 1049, Resolution 22-457, Resolution of the Municipal Council authorizing the Planning Board to conduct a preliminary investigation of the conditions of Block 11401, Lot 25, which I think is also the Gong Club.
I'm not quite sure what it is now. It's an old firehouse, right?
Yeah, Councilman, so the Gong Club was vacated by that entity, and we're looking to study it to see how it would work with the pedestrian plaza and potentially build out of a restaurant or facility that accommodates the pedestrian plaza. So this would be the first step in taking a look at it and how it is in an area of need of restructuring.
So would we be, are we looking to make this an area in need of redevelopment or rehabilitation?
I think it's rehabilitation, and then once the study is done, we'll bring it back to the council with how it.
And what's the underlying zoning for that property?
Probably NC. For redevelopment, yeah, I think it's NC.
And is there a reason we would need a redevelopment area here versus, just following the NC zoning?
I believe the idea is to be able to transfer it eventually over to the JCRA.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Tanya.
I believe the idea, now, I'm not privy to a lot of the conversation, so please forgive me for not knowing fully, but I believe the idea is to transfer it over to the JCRA to do that. And in order to do that, it has to be designated either area in need of rehab or redevelopment.
And the idea there is to create an RFP to see what vendors had in store for that particular parcel. The idea there is to continue as the restaurant row and that nature.
Okay.
Good? Okay. Thank you, Tanya. Deja?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am here with two resolutions. The first one is agenda item 10.25. It is for a mortgage discharge For the property located at 391 First Street, the borrower had a mortgage for $13,630. There was a no payment second mortgage that was put on the property with a 10-year time frame. With all the obligations and restrictions being met, the city is obligated to discharge this mortgage. The second item that I have is agenda item 10.26. This is also a mortgage discharge for the property located at 172 Clendene Avenue. This is for $17,276 for the GNHP program. All requirements having been satisfied, the city is obligated to discharge this mortgage as well.
Thank you, Deja.
Thank you.
Lucinda? Lucinda?
I think she stepped out.
She was just here. Okay, maybe she just stepped out. Margaret? Look at the baby. Look how big
Not a
she got,
baby
Margaret.
anymore, right?
Wow.
I think Director Kearse covered all of Lucinda's items, so that's why she left. So I am here for item number 1045, a resolution authorizing the Jersey City Department of Health and Human Services to submit a grant application and accept grant funds from the State of New Jersey Department of Health, Office of Local Public Health for childhood lead prevention. So this is our CLEP grant. We get it every year. This year, the State Department of Health intends to fund the program for a total of $643,872. There's no match requirement.
Any questions? Move on. That's it, Margaret?
That's it?
That's it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Lucinda's not back? You think so? Okay. Yeah. Kyle?
Good afternoon, Council. Sorry. So I just have one item, 10.1, resolution introducing the calendar year 2022 budget. I'll go into the figures, but just for first-time council members, just want to reiterate that this is kind of just a handoff to the council to start the actual budget process. And, you know, as we go through those budget hearings with each department, you know, we'll go more into the weeds of the numbers, but if it's all right, I'll just provide you a summary at the...
Kyle, we can't hear you, yeah.
I'll provide a summary at a kind of a higher level, and then field any questions that you may have, all right?
Will they receive it manually, a manual, you know, the big book?
Yeah, we'll be providing that. Once you guys accept the introduction on Wednesday, we just want to
Okay.
make sure it's, you know, approved first. So I'll go through the revenue side first. So the total budget this year is $695 million. The surplus number is $14.3 million. That is a reduction of 3.2 from last year. Our local revenue number is 41.3. That is a reduction of 5.3 from last year. Our state aid number is 63.8 million, a reduction of 1.2 from last year. Building permits, which is all our construction department, HEDC, that number is 7.4 million, a slight reduction of 427,000. Grants is down significantly, but this is an offsetting revenue and appropriation, so it has no material impact on the budget. And then we have our other special items, 231 million, and that's up 24 million from the prior year. That's inclusive of our American Rescue Plan dollars. So all that second allocation that we're receiving this year is going towards revenue replacement. I'll give more information on that as, you know, we circle back. Our receipt from delinquent taxes is $2 million. That's up about $1 million from the prior year. And our total amount to be raised by taxation, which is the local levy, municipal library portion, open space tax, and arts and cultural tax, that comes out to $324 million. And that is the total revenues that we're introducing. So if there's any questions on those items before I go to the appropriations, I'll answer them.
Any questions?
Okay, so on the appropriation side, which are all of our expenses, departmental budgets, insurance, debt service. I'll start with the general appropriations. That number is going to be 558 million. That's up 110 million from the prior year. A big factor in that is last year we were able to reduce those appropriations with the use of rescue plan dollars, but like I said, you know, a majority of all of that is going to revenue replacement this year, so we have to re-implement those full annual costs into our budget. Other expenses, which are our contractual obligations that council approves for each department, is up to 197 million. That's up 51 million from the prior year. Same kind of reasoning as the salaries and wages portion, which, I'm sorry, the salary and wages was 276 million. And those two numbers, you know, carry up to that 558. Our other appropriations is 43.8 million. That's up 28 from the prior year. That is inclusive of our library appropriation, which is just north of 15 million this year. There's 3 million for tax overpayments and settlements. Our participatory budget that we're just piloting this year, and as well as some state of emergency costs for when the state of New Jersey declares state of emergency. Then, like I said, our grants, the grant appropriation is 10.1, slightly higher than the revenue for our matching funds, which is approximately 350,000 this year. Our down payment for capital improvements, 6.5 million, which the council already approved that ordinance, so that's the 5% of the $131 million in projects that we bonded for. Our debt service is down to 58.6 million this year, down 21.2 million. Deferred charges is up to 10.5, up $1 million from the prior year. Those are any types of special emergencies that we declare at the end of the year, which need to be budgeted over the next 5 full budget years. And there's a decrease in judgments, which for 3.6 million off our books this year, which we paid in full last year. Our local district school purpose number is down 1.6. That number is provided to us by the state. Reserve for uncollected taxes is up to 5.9 million, approximately $832,000 increase. That is based on the 2021 tax collection percentage, and that is everything for the appropriation section, if there's any questions.
So Council, just real quick, I know that was a lot to digest. I didn't even get it myself. But for some of the new council members, what we do is we have these budget hearings. I kind of discussed it briefly, but we'll go through every line of this budget together to determine, you know, how we arrived at this number, where it was last year, why it increased, decreased. Including there, you'll see contractual obligations, cost of living adjustments for management, cost increases for equipment, operations, capital, debt service. So those are all the numbers kind of Kyle just rattled off. And just from a big picture narrative, you know, we are still dealing with some revenue loss issues. Some of the court fees are down, construction code slowed a little bit. So we're utilizing some of those federal dollars in order to alleviate those reductions. And basically what we did from a tax perspective is, as we saw the reduction last year, we kind of brought it back to what it was in the 2020 number. So if you look at the budget on a 3-year basis, we're relatively flat from the municipal side. And another point to pick up is, as you see the Board of Education levy increase, if you look at your overall tax bill, the city portion of the municipal budget in comparison to your total taxes has significantly decreased, and the Board of Ed's position has increased. So burden is on the council to, of course, keep city business going and solidify the budget, but just also now understanding that our number is smaller than it was in comparative years as an overall tax number.
Go ahead, James, you have a question?
Sure. Yeah, I know we'll dive into all the details in the hearing, so I don't want to get too in the weeds, but just very high level. And I know you said it changed, because I know last year was different. Can you just tell me, like, the municipal tax rate from 2020, 2021, and now proposed here in 2022?
Yep, so our 2020 tax rate was 0.702. Last year, with the near $1,000 decrease, it went to 0.523. And this year, we're bringing it back to that 2020 level at 0.75.
The municipal rate is 0.75. And I know, I don't know if we've gotten the county budget yet or not, but do we have an estimate on what right now, the overall tax rate is when you put the three together?
Sure, so the overall number, but I just could tell you that the county number, we were looking at potentially like a 2% increase, but adjusted with the new ratables, it may be a sunk cost, so it may just be about flat.
Okay,
We'll get you the exact numbers, though,
sure,
Councilman.
great. Yep.
Anyone else?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Joyce, I think,
Go
Tanya missed, 3.1. Is she still here? Yes, for the, this franchise ordinance,
Yeah, for 503, 503.
503, 509, Municipal.
The attorney for the applicant is also here. He probably would do a little bit of a better job explaining, but they have been working.
Tanya, are you here for this one, or maybe someone else is? I don't know if John gonna explain this or what.
The franchise ordinance?
Yeah, you here for this one?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
So they've been working with planning and engineering traffic since the application happened. And because there is basically a bump out, I think it's about 2 feet around the entire building, they're going to be doing a curb extension and then allowing for parking along that lane in Communipaw, and then it'll come back onto the 2 lanes. I'm doing a horrible job explaining that. I totally recognize that. But that is why Mr. Harrington is here to explain it a lot better than me.
Okay. Go ahead, Chuck.
Okay, a lot of pressure. For the record, Charles Harrington of Connell Foley on behalf of the applicant. And yeah, I think a little background on this is probably good for the council, because it is a unique situation. In short, the franchise, we're requesting a franchise for the 2-foot encroachment on floors 2 through 5. It's a 5-story building, 36 residential units, 2 of which are affordable workforce housing. This was before the affordable housing ordinance came into play, and it was actually a voluntary submission. So what happened is this was approved at the planning board with this encroachment into the right-of-way, and it's similar to a lot of projects that have been approved over the years where there's a building code provision that allows encroachments into the right-of-way over a certain height. So that's, you'll go throughout downtown, all throughout the city, and you'll see that, right? So this has that 2-foot encroachment, and we actually went back to the planning board and took off a portion of it at the corner, some of the encroachment, but we still had the 2-foot encroachment. So it was approved by the planning board, subsequently it was approved by the zoning office, subsequently approved by the building department, construction well underway. And then what happened was, because it was blocking some of the signage, potentially on Communipal Avenue, it was brought to the attention of the zoning officer and the building department, and it was concluded that no, my client is building consistent with what he was approved to build. But there's then a question came up as the interpretation of the building code provision that allows this encroachment. Was this really in sync with it, or was it a little bit beyond what the provision provides? Should it really be more taken back for the bay windows, architectural elements? So we kind of had a conundrum at that point, because the project was up. Where this is structural. It wasn't you could just take it back. So the thought was, well, how can we kind of move forward from here. And then the thought when working with planning department and the building department, and then we got engineering involved with some street improvements at the corner of Communipaw and Arlington, and then further down Arlington, that would all be part of this, is to seek a franchise to permit that encroachment. And I say, in the beginning, I said it's unique because really this is, now that this has been looked at, the planning department is looking at this issue closer, and the building department. So I don't expect that this is something that's going to happen or be before this council in the future. I can tell you my clients, when they come in with plans now, and we see any potential encroachment over the property line, we advise them that you should probably take that back within the line and work on some other architectural elements. So that's kind of how we got here, and that's where it is a unique situation, and we have been working with the other city departments to move forward here.
All right. Any more questions?
Hey, Chuck, I have a couple
Go
questions.
ahead.
I'm just looking at the map. So on Arlington Avenue, which was a two-way and is a one-way now with construction, when everything is done, that's going to remain a one-way?
Yeah, that's the idea, is to change that into a one-way and then have improvements down at the end of Arlington and Grand, so that it's a one-way all around. That's what my client and his professionals have been working with the.
So you're no longer going to be able to turn from Grand Street onto Arlington Avenue?
That's correct.
Okay.
And that would be, that we're actually presenting that to the planning board as well.
Okay. And on Communipaw, it looks like it's a bump out at the corner. How does that impact the lanes on Communipaw?
Well, right there is there is a, I'm trying to get my, you have the turning lane on the right-hand side, so that bump out won't affect it because, as you know, Communipaw it's single lane, and then as you get towards the junction intersection, it bumps out a little bit so you can make that right-hand turn. So that's not going to affect that, but we think with the bump out, because the sidewalks are small over here, we think that's going to be a benefit for pedestrian safety. Because as you know, if you go down there, those sidewalks are pretty slim.
Anyone else have any questions?
So, Chuck, so the idea essentially is, with respect to the lanes, so it's, you coming down Communipaw from MLK, it's essentially 2 lane, then it comes into 1 because there's parking. So with this proposal, it would essentially extend the 1 further on the other side of Arlington, right before you get to Grand Street, and then you'll be able to merge back into the 2, and you'll be, well, you can't make a right there. You will have to go straight down, but it will come back into the 2 lanes.
That's correct.
Does anyone else have any other questions? So, Mr. Harrington, it's Sean. Hi. We're still awaiting a response from you with regards to engineering's looking for the drawings. So before we actually move on to adopt this ordinance, we're going to need that response from you in order to move forward.
Yeah, understood. My client and the engineers are working on that now for the signed and sealed drawings.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Chuck, one more question. For the traffic study that was done for these changes, how big of an area did you study?
I don't know that personally, but I can get that study to you.
Okay, because there just might be a little bit concerned about traffic backup
Yeah.
in and around the area that might not be that might not have been looked at if you guys had a smaller sample. So I'm just curious as to how broadly it was studied.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Now, Chuck, also with respect to the, I think Tanya probably could have spoken on this, but with respect to the closing of the street, not allowing traffic to enter Arlington from Grand Street, is that a planning idea? Is that Like, how do we get there? How does this project affect, like, what does one have to do with the other?
Well, it does, that, I believe, was a result of discussions with my client, their traffic engineers, and I think planning and engineering. The idea, they're kind of a little bit separate. You know, like the franchise for the encroachment is separate. But the idea was, what can we do here to make improvements, to make this better pedestrian-wise? And I think the idea was that Arlington, during this construction of this project, has essentially been a one-way, and it's been functioning that way. So how do, if that works, if the traffic engineers think that works, then how do we take the next step to make that a permanent situation? And now, I wasn't in the discussions with regard to the closure area between Grand and Arlington, but I think that's what came out of that.
But see, although it's a one-way, you're still, while you can't go through Arlington to get to Municipal, you do have the option to turn up Harmon. Harmon. You still have that option, but with this proposal, that option will essentially not be available. Is the idea turning Arlington into a one-way is because of the building? Is it because the building was extended?
I think no. I think so many ideas there were if Arlington becomes a one-way, then you don't have 2 lanes of traffic. You can have additional parking on Arlington, right? Because now the entire right-of-way isn't taken up by the 2 lanes. So if you had 1 lane, now you can add on-street parking. But I mean, my client is not married to that. If that's something that the council or planning board does not support, that's we're okay with that. We're willing to do what the planning board and the council wants to see there, and we are scheduled. It's actually on the agenda tomorrow night for the planning board, but it's getting carried to the next meeting on the 28th. So we have some time to go back and forth if that's something that the city is looking at again and say we prefer not to do that at the corner of Arlington and Grand. That's
could you carry it, Chuck?
It is carried. It's being carried to the 28th.
So then you need to meet with Councilman Gilmore.
Because that's the area.
Mara, you want to meet with him?
And Chuck, you have a high school right there, and you kind of like, the concern is that public safety in case of an emergency type situation, that you're creating a huge clot there, and that's very concerning.
Right.
The clot with the
street that you will be closing, making it a one-way. It causes a problem in that area, especially with Lincoln High School right across the street. It kind of makes it a little difficult. God forbid if anything happens, with the public safety. I think it just has to be talked about a little more, and public safety has to be like priority there.
Yeah, and again, that's something we're just offered to do, public improvements by the developer. So if that's something that the city does not want to do, we're fine with that. We're just looking for the franchise for the encroachment as well. And my client wanted to step up and say, well, what can we do for the city?
So then, Chuck, please reach out to Councilman Gilmore's office, before we deal with this on a second round, because I think we have some concerns about the flow of that traffic, okay?
Understood.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Barker?
Hello, Council President, members of the council. Here to present Agenda Item 3.9, Ordinance 22-058, which is a first reading ordinance authorizing the city to acquire from Liberty National Development Corporation the Port Liberte Ferry Terminal property. The purpose of this resolution is for the city to acquire the terminal itself and to take a more active role in the operations and maintenance of that space, with the hope of resuming ferry service for residents in that area as well as the city as a whole. So this is the first step in achieving that goal.
Yeah, Barker, how much is this going to cost the city?
This is going to be a nominal conveyance fee of $1 from the current property owner over to the city.
And how about the boats?
So the city will not take over the operations itself of running the ferry service. We would assume that either the current operator or a similar operator would assume all of the costs of running the service and providing the boats themselves, as well as maintaining the service over whatever period of time that the city enters into an agreement with them for.
And I don't understand it. And what's the purpose of taking it over if we're still going to have an outside company running the boat?
So currently, the current property owner does not really have an interest or a need to maintain ownership of this property or to be involved in everything that's required to have agreements in place or leases in place with the ferry operator to provide this service. It's not really what they have any interest in currently. So by the city taking over the ownership, we'd be able to play a more active role in making sure whoever is operating the service there entering into a lease agreement with the city would be a more sustainable operator and quality of service than we've had so far. So there have been issues with the current operator at Port Liberte where service has been suspended with little to no notice, without any guarantees or promises of it returning. And there are several residents that are dependent on that ferry service, on that transit option to be able to commute back and forth from work, et cetera. The city taking a more active role in owning this and then setting in place certain performance metrics for whoever were to operate to meet year by year would ensure that we have more control over the entire process and that we could make decisions that are the best for the residents as opposed to whatever is determined by the market that given year or other factors that would be out of our control or that have been out of our control so far because it's been completely private ownership and influence up until now.
Any questions?
Yeah, can I ask you a few follow-ups just to clarify on that?
Okay, Jay.
Sure.
So I just want to make sure, right now, is there ferry service from this terminal?
Currently, there is not. So New York Waterway was the operator that has operated there since 2003, I believe. In 2020, the ferry service was suspended there as well as several of the other ferry locations due to the pandemic. And then after that, several of the other ferry operators resumed service, Paulus Hook, for example, others along the waterfront. This one did not. Because of some legitimate concerns about low ridership and the fact that the majority base that they were drawing from of people who were using that ferry were commuting to New York for work, and a lot of the people in the Port Liberté area and others had not fully returned to an in-the-office work situation. And so since 2020, this service has been suspended, and we are working actively on resuming the service soon.
And then just to kind of, I guess, follow up on what Councilman Boggiano asked, right now, I mean, obviously, we're projecting into the future, but does the city anticipate subsidizing the ferry service or on an annual basis spending money on, basically ensuring that the ferry service operates?
We do anticipate being able to subsidize the service, but for now, we're targeting solely grant funds and funds from entities like the FTA or the state, for example, as we've seen a surge in programs similar to this to help support more sustainable modes of transportation. We see a lot of grant programs out there that would be available for something like this. We have not at this point budgeted and do not intend to, at least within the next year, to budget within the city's capital budget for subsidies because we feel pretty confident that we'll be able to go after one of these grants or other methods to be able to bring more people, specifically from the south side of Jersey City, specifically in Greenville and the west side, to the terminal.
And one last question on that front is, right now, to connect into the terminal, is there a mass transit connection, or would we need to sort of, maybe potentially via or other things to establish a connection to the terminal?
There isn't currently a mass transit connection. There's a roadway that would be the method for either shuttles, whether it's through VIA or New Jersey Transit or other programs to be able to access the terminal, or for example, bike share as a way to connect people over, but that does not currently exist, although there are programs that are already available that we're working on just taking advantage of that would be at no cost to the city, and that also wouldn't require additional grant funds to be secured, and that's through New Jersey Transit. So they have a very active and pretty well-funded program specifically to have buses transport people over to ferry terminals, and we just haven't used that to its highest and best potential up until now, so we're working on that with Councilwoman Ridley.
Great, thank you.
Barker, so with respect to when services were rendered, what was their interest and exit at that point? Like, did they have a contract with the current landowner before?
Yes, they have a lease agreement with the current property owner, basically to operate the ferry service and then maintain the ferry terminal. So at that point, if I were, I don't want to speak on behalf of Iron State or the property owner right now, but at that point it was envisioned that this would basically be an amenity for the residents living in the direct area right within Port Liberte, as an added bonus of something that they can use. And I don't think the grand plan was always to connect people from all over the city and outside of the Port Liberte area to be using this service. It was one of those things where if it happened, great, and if people wanted to, drive over there and use the ferry, even better, but there wasn't an active plan to support that and encourage that use, and that's essentially where the city would come in now, where we want to encourage a more sustainable network of transit that everyone's using. So the idea then was always to just provide this as an amenity for the residents who are there.
So can you give us an example of, I don't want to misrepresent what you said. You said that with us acquiring this, we will have more control over the actual, there will be stipulations that they will have. So can you give us some examples some examples to speak to that?
Sure. So a good example that I could cite is what we do with our VIA contract. So before we enter into a contract with that transit service, we say that we want to meet a certain ridership goal every week or every month or every year. We want to maintain a certain quality of service. So for VIA, it's wait times. For the ferries, it could be something different, which is the availability of X number of boats per peak hour or something like that. And then we also have metrics related to utilization, which is we have a target of how many people are riding a VIA per hour. And we could do something similar for ferries, where we could say we want to target X number of people using the ferry per boat or per day on a consistent basis for this long of a period. And essentially we would put these performance metrics into the agreement that we enter into with an operator. There are certain things that we could not be able to require because they also have limitations on their end, and they wouldn't be able to guarantee certain things like the ridership, but that's where the partnership with the city comes in, where we're saying by acquiring this terminal, we're now committed to providing sustainable flow of riders over to the ferry terminal who we know want to use transit and just don't have a great way of doing that right now. And in return, the operator would enter into a commitment that would say, we will provide the highest quality of service, we will make sure enough boats are available when needed, and we will make sure that we do not, without notice, suspend service. We would always build up a case if we find that the market is difficult or for whatever reason we aren't able to make good on the promises that we've made within this contract. So it's similar to the way we handle contracts with other transit providers right now, where we basically say that it's unlikely that nothing bad will ever happen, but if it is to happen, then the city has assurances in place to make sure residents aren't inconvenienced without any notice or without any alternatives in place.
Okay, Thank you, Walker.
Thank you.
I would just add to that and say that a lot of the residents in the Greenville area have really been reaching out and asking to have service restored here. We did have meetings with New York Waterway. We totally understand that economics change, ridership changes during the pandemic, so we understand the complications that they had. But in my opinion, when this terminal was operating at full throttle, I think it was the best terminal stop in the city. You know, it was one of the only places where our residents on the southern end of the city, instead of driving all the way downtown, could just drive down Chapel Avenue, literally pull up, park their car for free, and jump on the ferry. So that was a great benefit. And we have residents that do more than just, you know, go to work on that ferry stop. I have residents there that go to school on that stop. And I know a lot of times when we are, I guess, delving into new areas, we tend to feel, those of us who are originally from Jersey City tend to feel like we're building these things for other people. But I would remind you that Port Liberte is not a new development, and they've been there before Jersey City was the it place. So there are a lot of residents, longtime residents in that area who really depend on these services. And if we're going to expand transportation in the southern end of the city, then I think this is a step in the right direction.
I hope we could afford it.
Yeah, that's where the subsidies of the fares come in to make it.
Right.
We the
fare's
same
gotta be
price as
reasonable.
Via?
It has to be reasonable.
Same price as Via? I think that's good. If it's,
I don't know if we'll
Gotta
be
be
able
reasonable. We
to, I
gotta
don't know if
ride
we'll
it.
be able to get it down to $2, but definitely lower than the 13 right now.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Morgan?
Morgan.
HHS.
Good afternoon, all. So I
Good afternoon.
have two items on the agenda. The first is 10.43, and that is the resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City to enter into agreements with Hunger Free America to share the cost for AmeriCorps Vista volunteers to conduct summer hunger relief work. So essentially, they'll be working with me for the Summer Meals Program as site monitors to make sure that all of the sites are within compliance, and they'll also be sharing any information about SNAP and EBT.
Could you repeat that and just slow it down just a little?
So essentially, they'll be working with me in the Summer Meals Program as site monitors to make sure that all of the sites are within compliance, and they'll also be sharing any resources regarding SNAP EBT.
so there'll be site monitors, individuals from Hunger Free will be site monitors at these locations?
So no, they're actually residents from Jersey City, but we're sharing the cost with Hunger Free America.
Say that again. Can you lift I can't.
So they're residents from Jersey City, but we'll be sharing the cost with Hunger Free America.
No,
Splitting the bill here.
so this is related to the summer food program, correct?
Yes.
Now, I'm asking, are they gonna be site monitors?
Yes.
So what happens to the individuals we hire during the summer to be site monitors? Do we still have that allocated, allotted?
Yes.
Those, because I believe it's like 12, 13 of them. So this will be in addition to in addition to that. No.
So for the summer, I have 3 site monitors that's like being paid from the city, but we'll reimburse from that at the end of the program from the state. And then these 2 from Hunger Free America, we're splitting that cost, and their checks would come from Hunger Free America.
Oh, okay. So they're sharing the expense essentially of the service. Okay.
Next one.
So the next one is 10.44. It is the resolution authorizing the award of contract to Revolution Foods to provide the food for summer meals, essentially. So the bid was the lowest bid awarded by the state, and I remember Councilman Gilmore asking the last time if the food was good. When they went into bid, they were required to provide full lunch meals, and we were pleased with the presentation and also the taste. They're also on this side of the Hudson, so it'd be a lot better when it comes to transportation. And also, if you all would like to taste the foods, I can arrange for that to happen.
You said, Say that again? You didn't like the food that they brought?
No. I said that we were pleased with the presentation and also with the taste.
Of the food,
They
okay.
tasted it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yusef, they tasted this
Councilman
one.
Saleh?
I was going to say, are we going to taste the food? And, you know, what are the exact parameters? What are they going to be providing? Are they going to be providing water, like with
No. So that's not a part of the program. It's just milk. Yeah.
just milk? Are they going to keep it at the right temperature?
You know, they better.
Boil it.
We'll be watching them very closely, I assure you that.
So will I.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Eric?
Good afternoon. Here to talk about two ordinances. Item 3.10, dealing with food truck parking on Columbus between Warren and Marin. That's Ordinance 22-059.
Eric, could you start over? We can't hear you clear. Go ahead,
Good afternoon.
go ahead, gotcha.
Now we're good?
You,
All right, I'm practically swallowing the microphone now.
go ahead. Which one?
I'm here to talk about item 3.10, which deals with food truck parking on Columbus between Warren and Marin. That's ordinance 22-059. They're in the process of installing a bike lane on the north side of Columbus, and there are two food truck parking spaces on that side of the street. So we're moving them from the north side of the street to the south side of the street. And I've been working with Councilman Solomon and Councilman Rivera on that, and anybody else that wants to talk about that. But that's essentially the big change.
Go ahead, go ahead, James.
Just in other context, I talked to Director Flanagan as well today.
Yes.
And my understanding is she's working on a larger series of food truck changes with the administration and everyone that should come to the council by September. But we, as you guys know, we've had a few people coming to the council who have had spaces on Columbus for a long time. And so there are a couple additional spaces that are added through this process. And then the administration can open up a rebidding process for additional spaces. And we wanted to move that soon just because, as we know, as a council, we don't meet a ton over the summer, so we just wanted to get those spaces created on Columbus so that there's some opportunity for like 2 new spaces. And then obviously the bike lane is going to come in the next month, so we wanted to shift the truck south in anticipation of the new bike lane.
Any more questions on that one?
No? Okay. The second item is 4.1. Deals with the expansion of the Mckinley Square SID. It's ordinance 22-044. And I have the director, David Biangini, to address any questions. I brought a large map to show you where the expansion will be, if you'd like to see that as well.
Is Lorena here?
I don't think Lorena's here, but David is here. Or was, anyway.
She's
Lorena is here, too.
over there. Sean, can you hold the map up for us?
Hold it up for us, okay. Go ahead, we'll follow you.
Hand up,
Don't
Sean.
worry, we'll see it later. Go ahead and speak.
Okay,
And see it.
I'm David Biagini, and this is Lorena Loiza. We're the staff of McKinley Square Partnership. As you know, the expansion of the McKinley Square is on for second reading on Wednesday. Our job as the staff, I just want to let you all know that we had to perform due diligence to let the property owners and business owners in the expanded area know about the process and invite their participation. And this process actually started last year because we thought we were going to expand in 2021. So I'm just going to list the opportunities we gave to the property owners and business owners, and there's about 30 altogether in the expansion area. We started last year with an annual meeting, which we do every year for our budget, and that was held on May the 6th, but it was done by regular mail to our members. And our council representatives on the board at the time, which was Councilwoman Prince Airy and Councilman Robinson at the time, asked us to do a certified letter to the expansion properties, which we did. And we held a second annual meeting on June 1st. No property owner attended. So for a variety of reasons, we delayed the expansion until this year, and we went with a separate budget without the expansion last year, which you approved. This year we started again. We had our annual meeting April the 7th. We did a certified mailing to the property owners and business owners in the expansion area. Again, no one attended. Then we got into discussion with Mr. Tolosa over the final expansion map and which property should be in. And this is what we all agreed to, this green area.
Okay.
Summit Avenue, which now will be pretty much the middle of the district, because we're going to extend over to Florence Place on Montgomery, and we're going to include a lot more of Summit Avenue, which, as you know, is a major commercial thoroughfare. And the two on Bergen, that was actually Mr. Tolosa's idea. We put in his recommendations down there to cap off the intersection there with Bergen and Fairview. But anyway, so then we held, because the properties kept changing a little bit, we held a second meeting, special meeting, just for the expansion property owners on April 14th, again by certified mail. We had one person attend that one in the expansion area. And finally, once we got the final map, we did one more Zoom meeting, certified mail, and no one attended that one. After the city sent out the public hearing notices, then we got some reaction, right, as usual. Once they get the public hearing notice, then they...
That's right.
Notice, right. As far as we know, we got 3 inquiries through the city clerk's office. There may have been more, but I think the clerk's office handled those. But 3 made it to Lorena and I. So we held a Zoom meeting for those property owners on last Friday, June the 10th, and we waited 37 minutes, and we were all alone. So, bottom line is, our job is to provide due diligence and show you evidence of that, and between the certified letters and also Lorena walking the district and visiting the property owners and business owners, and she has a few support letters. And in addition to that, which is kind of an interesting anecdote, we actually had a big property owner who will be the second largest in this expansion area actually approach us to be in the district. So of course we accepted his offer. So bottom line is, I think we did due diligence. I think you should be comfortable with that, and hopefully on Wednesday, all will go well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Questions? No?
No.
Good job.
Good job. Okay, Sean, I know we have Central Avenue SID here. I have a slip here. Do they need to speak, or?
I think we have someone coming up.
Alexa.
Hello, good afternoon, Council. I'm Alexa Lima. I'm the Executive Director for the Central Avenue SID. Do you have any questions with the budget?
You just want to explain the budget is the same as last year, or?
It is almost identical to previous years. The only two differences is that we increased our budget for outdoor art installations, as well as added funds for our holiday lights.
Any questions, anyone? That's it?
Are we on track to install the holiday lights for this holiday season, or?
I believe we are in track yet. We already ordered them, so they should be delivered within the next couple weeks.
Okay. Also, can we change the lights from yellow and white to just white? Like some of them are, just FYI. If you could put a note.
For the holiday lights?
No, not the holiday lights. I'm talking about the street lights. If you could, the street lights that they recently put up. Some
Yeah.
of them are yellow. I don't think they know.
I mean, engineering is here if you want to speak with them about that.
Oh, true. Okay, yeah. Engineering.
He's just trying, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack?
Good afternoon, Council. I'm speaking on Resolution 10.2, Item 22-410, authorizing and approving a refund of a prepayment to 126-142 Morgan Street Urban Renewal, LLC. The prepayment was made in November of 2005. The entity had been authorized then by the city to build a project with a tax abatement, and with the understanding that they would receive a credit against future annual service charges over a 4-year period, when the project went live. For various reasons, and that was authorized on Resolution 05891 way back when. For various reasons, they did not pursue the tax abatement, so I checked with legal, and they are, and we've done this before, but they are entitled to their prepayment back. And I've done my due diligence to make sure that they have not been paid in all that time. So that's it. Any questions?
Good. Any questions?
All good?
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, thank you.
Brian?
Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
Two resolutions to go over with you. The first one is 10.12, Resolution 22-420. This resolution is regarding ratifying a resolution for our architect to continue his services for Engine 10. We've had several issues starting from the pandemic, as well as unforeseen conditions that have come out, and a contractor that we're having to hold hands with just a little bit. And so we're behind schedule. And so to keep us on track with our architect of record, I need to ask that we extend their contract.
Any questions? Next one.
Next one.
Next one.
Okay, that would be Resolution 10.13. Sorry, that's the agenda number, Resolution 22-421. This is a professional services agreement to hire an electrical engineer to help us put plans and specs together to improve the lighting at Canco Park.
Questions? Any questions?
That was competitive. We went with the lowest responsible.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay?
Paul?
Oh, Mr. Russo.
Different style.
Good afternoon, Council. Good afternoon, Council President. And Councilman, the lights are almost done on Central. Bear with us. Yeah, exactly. I'm here today to talk about Resolution 22-440, and that's agenda number 1032. This is a resolution authorizing a professional service agreement with environmental remediations and financial services to provide the city with environmental services. The purpose of this resolution is to award the professional service contract to this company to monitor the environmental remediation being undertaken at the PBG sites on Garfield and other sites pursuant to the consent judgment entered by the City of Jersey City and PPG. This is an ongoing environmental services contract for work that PPG has had on Garfield and dates back to 2008. The contract will cover 1 year and expire in December of this year. Just because we're a little bit behind schedule and we have to get this to get us through the year.
So this contract is to monitor the remediation of that site that PPG is doing?
Correct. So part of the agreement when we enter with somebody as the city, we just have to be a third party monitoring to make sure that they're doing the correct remediation.
There's I guess there's no, how can I say it? I want to make sure I'm saying it right. There's no standard that they have to meet that's, like, I guess, is the due diligence and the onus on them to cover these expenses is what I'm trying to figure out.
So they did actually pay, I think it was $350,000, and that goes, I think, into our general account, and we're now paying out of our environmental capital, but they did pay for a portion up front for this expertise on the monitoring. Okay. The next one is Resolution 22445, and that's agenda number 1047. This is requesting the NJDOT to grant an extension to May 25th for the award of the construction contract for the Caven Point and Liberty Harbor roadway preservation project. So this is 2 years of municipal aid funding. I see Councilwoman Ridley doing a dance there. Everybody's excited about this project getting started. We actually held the pre-con today. This is just a minor piece of it that we need the paperwork basically allowing the contract to be pushed back a little bit to award. And we already have awarded it. Now this is the last piece for DOT to give us their green light and give us the notice to proceed. And hopefully we can get a contractor out there working before the end of this month.
Well, you said 1027. That's not the correct one. 1047?
1047. Excuse me.
Well, misunderstood you.
Any questions, guys?
Thank you, Council. Have a great night.
Doug?
Good evening, Council President and Council members. I'm actually here to discuss Resolution 22-430, which if I understood earlier, Director Kearse read off when he was up here. So unless there's any other questions, I would defer to him.
Yeah, he discussed it. No questions.
Okay, all right. Have a good night.
Good night. Yeah, Doug, you was here all that time? They didn't tell you? Christine?
Good afternoon, Council President and City Council. I am here to discuss 3 resolutions. The first one is item 1027, Resolution 22-435, awarding a professional services agreement to Fireworks by Grucci for the July 4th fireworks.
Any questions?
The next item is 1028, Resolution 22-436, which is the execution of a hold harmless agreement for 15 Exchange Place for use of their property for July 4th for staging. The next item is 10.39, which is a resolution authorizing the execution of another hold harmless agreement, and that's for the EverTrust lot, also for parking and staging.
Thank you, Christine.
Christine, it's me, it's Sean, sorry. It's rare that the clerk asks questions, but would you mind just representing 10.40 as well?
Sure, absolutely. So that is 10.40, which is the resolution authorizing a grant of a permit to D&M Fireworks for a fireworks display on July 16th, and that is for the Mount Carmel Festival, which is an annual event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer?
Jennifer.
Good afternoon, Council President, council members. I'm here to present one ordinance, agenda number 3.8, ordinance 22-057. This is to convert an intersection into an always stop. I just want to note that there is a revision to be made. This is for Wilkinson Avenue and Arlington Avenue. It currently says Wilkinson Avenue and Clerk Street. I can have this revised before Wednesday, and for the record, I just want to confirm that this is okay with Corporation Council.
Yes, that's a first reading, so if the change is made before introduction on Wednesday, it's fine.
And Jennifer, if you can get the changes to me, because I don't think you have the ability to make the changes on iCompass, just send them to me and I'll make sure it gets updated.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Jay?
Good afternoon, Council President, council members. This is regarding Agenda 10.3, resolution authorizing the renewal of a competitively bid contract to Donahue, Garanda, Doria, and Tompkins for accounting services. Resolution 22-11, it's renewal of a contract.
So I do have a concern with this. I have two concerns. It's less for you because you're just representing this, so nothing with you, Jay. So the first concern is, as I understand the state law, our annual audits are supposed to be completed roughly 6 months after the end of the fiscal year. So we have a calendar year budget, and we tend to receive these audits. I think the date on the 2020 audit was February 2022, so it was 14 months after the end of the calendar year. The second concern is I noticed in the disclosures from this company that they've made a number of donations to political campaigns throughout Hudson County, and they recently made another donation to a super PAC. And I understand the nature of our jobs as many of the firms, contractors, developers will have been donors, but I also feel like for the independent auditor of the city, that is something we have to be able to trust, that there are no conflicts of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest. So for me, you know, you combine the late arrival of the audits on an annual basis, plus for me the appearance of a conflict, and that does give me pause for us to renew their contract.
Noted.
Okay, thank you. Sean, take it from the top.
Okay. All right, so all of the first readings were touched on earlier, items 3.1 through 3.10. Item 4.1 was touched on earlier. Item 4.2, City Ordinance 22-045 is an ordinance amending the pay transparency regulation located in Chapter 148, discrimination of the Jersey City Municipal Code. Council members, I attached the proposed amendments to the actual ordinance this afternoon, and I updated it on iCompass, and I also provided you with a hard copy in front of you. So if you have any questions, I'm unable to make the changes on iCompass to the actual ordinance until we're able to amend it, take a vote to amend, and then vote as amended. Then I'll be able to make those changes. Okay. Item 4.3, City Ordinance 22-046 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, Section 332-5, One-Way Streets for Ash Street and Pine Street. Item 4.4, City Ordinance 22-047, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, Section 332-9, stop intersections to designate Bramhall Avenue and Sackett Street and Manila Avenue and 7th Street as stop control intersections. Item 4.5, City Ordinance 22-048, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 9, Parking for the Disabled of the Jersey City Code, designated reserved parking space at various locations throughout the city. Item 4.6, City Ordinance 22-049 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic of the Jersey City Traffic Code, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, amending Section 332-5, One-Way Streets, Article 3, Parking, Standing, and Stopping, amending Section 332-23, No Stopping or Standing on Washington Street. We touched on earlier about the public hearing and approval of the 2022 Central Avenue Special Improvement District Assessment Roll and Budget. We have our request for speakers. Right now we have 3. Any questions or comments on petitions and communications, items 6.1 through 6.33? Okay, we also have office communications 7.1 through 7.7. And our report of directors 8.1 through 8.7. And then we have our claims list 9.1, and then right on to the resolutions. Items 10.1 through 10.3 were touched on earlier. Item 10.4, Resolution 22-412, is a resolution declaring the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Item 10.5, Resolution 22-413, is a resolution honoring St. Paul the Apostle Roman Catholic Church and School, the 161st founding anniversary. Item 10.6, Resolution 22-414, is a resolution honoring the Urban League of Hudson County on the occasion of their 50th anniversary. Item 10.7, Resolution 22-415, is a resolution in support of the Jersey Journal Guild as it negotiates a fair contract to provide critical local news coverage to Jersey City. Item 10.8 was touched on earlier. Item 10.9, Resolution 22-417, is a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City to enter into polling place lease agreements with the Hudson County Board of Elections. Council members, these are lease agreements for the primary election, which already occurred. The city gets reimbursed $50 for each polling place location.
Sean?
Yes.
Can you send us a list of the new polling places? Because I had some questions for residents.
Sure. I have that updated from the Board of Elections, and I'll forward it to yourself and the entire council. Item 10.10 and 10.11 were kind of touched on earlier with the director here. This is the resolution accepting the assessment roll, the 2022-2023 assessment roll and budget for the Central Avenue Special Improvement District. 10.12 through 10.13 were touched on earlier. 10.14, Resolution 22-422 is a resolution rejecting the bids received by the City of Jersey City on May 12th, 2022 for janitorial services for the Department of Public Works, Division of Recycling and Enforcement.
Council, just for a note on that rejection of bids. I know Director Kears had already left, but we're going to go back to the RFP and include additional sites that were not mentioned in the original RFP, including the new public safety building and various other opportunities. We may need the Central Avenue building, so we'll just come back with a new list of sites.
Thank you. Okay, items 10.15 through 10.23 were touched on earlier. 10.24, Resolution 22-432 is a resolution accepting grant funds for calendar year 2022 Clean Communities Grant from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Items 10.25 through 10.29 were touched on earlier. Item 10.30, Resolution 22-438, resolution authorizing a shared service agreement for services outlined in this resolution between the City of Jersey City, Department of Public Works, and the Jersey City Housing Authority pursuant to the Uniform Shared Service Consolidation Act, NJSA 40A:65-1 exec.
Sean, if I may address the council. So council has been working with this with Councilwoman Prinzeri, and we took a look at our shared service agreement with the Board of Ed, and we saw that there are some potential cost savings for the Housing Authority as well. So we partnered with the director of the Housing Authority and identified some services that we could provide to them at little or no cost to the city, and it would reduce some of the burden of their budget that they can then reallocate to their residents. So, Councilwoman, if you have anything to add, yep.
The only thing that I would add is that this came about in conversations we had in Marion Gardens, in part with services maybe not being done fast enough for residents, but also there were some areas where it was unclear whether it was city owned or housing authority owned. So this just, at the end of the day, makes it easier for residents in our housing to get the service that they need without having to have this back and forth, and then the city will be reimbursed for anything that is a responsibility of the housing authority. And if it can save them some money, they can reallocate that into other needs for residents that live in the housing authority buildings. I think that that's a win for everybody.
Don't we share in the public safety with them? Do we share our public safety with housing, right?
We provide public safety, facility for the Housing Authority, but also foot patrols and police and schools for both the Board of Ed and the Housing Authority. Some of the other services are emergency tree repair if there's an emergency that needs to be done, pothole filling in their parking lots, signage that we already produce in-house, stop signs in their parking lots, stuff like that. Yep.
Okay. Our next resolution, item 10.31, resolution 22-439, is a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City Department of Health and Human Services to accept grant funds from the Jersey City Economic Development Corporation to fund municipal assistance for victims for forced immigration from Ukraine living in Jersey City. I believe we got a phone call earlier this afternoon, Business Administrator Metro, and they don't have all of the documents in place. So it is my understanding that the administration is going to withdraw this resolution?
Correct. We're going to withdraw it for Wednesday and bring it back at the following meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Okay, item 10.32 was touched on earlier. Item 10.33, resolution 22-441 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Cambria Automotive Companies, Inc. for the purchase and delivery of various Mack trucks through the Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative for the Department of Public Works Division of Automotive Maintenance. Item 10.34, Resolution 22-442, is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Cambria Automotive Companies, Inc. for the purchase and delivery of 3 Mack MD-42R single-axle trucks with 16-inch dumping rack bodies through the Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative for the Department of Public Works Division of Automotive Maintenance. Item 10.35, Resolution 22-443 is a resolution authorizing the purchasing agent to sell various motor vehicles at public auction. Item 10.36, Resolution 22-444 is a resolution awarding negotiated open-end contract pursuant to NJSA 40A:11-5 in parentheses 3 to Al's Towing and Recovery as a primary vendor and Tuminus, I'm mispronouncing that, so I apologize, Towing as the alternate vendor for the city-wide heavy-duty towing services for the Department of Public Works Division of Automotive Services. Maintenance, excuse me. Item 10.37, Resolution 22-445 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Clearspan Fabric Structures International for the purchase, delivery, and installation of a salt dome through the Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative for the Department of Public Works Division of Sanitation. Items 10.38 through 10.47 were touched on earlier. Item 10.48, Resolution 22-456, is a resolution authorizing the payment of claims submitted governmentjobs.com, Inc., also known as NeoGov, for a subscription fee for providing the City of Jersey City with onboard services. And the last resolution was touched on earlier. So if I don't have any other items to be added or any discussions, can I have a motion to adjourn
Second.
at 5:40 PM? I heard the motion to adjourn by Councilperson Rivera. I didn't quite hear who seconded.
Second.
Seconded by Councilperson Saleh. Okay, all in favor of the motion to adjourn at 5:40 PM. By acclamation, council members, please say aye.
Aye.
We are out of here at 5:40 PM. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Stay safe. Teamwork makes the dream work.